Saleroni. Look how chunky this fucking hardcover is that I decided I wanted to buy instead of the paperback because I'm stupid. Hello and welcome back to Slaggy Book Club, the book club that is everything but a book club. I'm Cameron, and if you're watching right now, you can see that things are a little different than usual. We are casual. We're cozy. We're surrounded by books. Because I thought that if I was going to sit down and talk to you about 70 books, then I might as well do it comfortably. In today's episode, as the title suggests, I am going to be going through all 65 books that I read in 2024 and the books that I DNF'd in 2024. Every book that I touched is going to be touched on in this episode, rapid fire style. Don't worry, I am catering to our TikTok attention spans. I don't know why I thought it would be a good idea to surround myself with 70 books while sat on a couch. They are literally all falling on top of me, but I'm kind of excited to get into this. Maybe I should film on a couch every day. This is very comfortable. So guys, I did have these books in order, but as you can see, the possibility of keeping them that way when I have dumped them on the couch all around me is essentially impossible. So I won't be going through this in any particular order. I'm just going to be haphazardly grabbing from this pile. And I'm going to start with the books that I failed to finish. No, we didn't fail. We don't fail. I'm going to start with the books that I chose not to finish in 2024. Starting with the last book that I DNF'd in 2024, which was The Lovers by Yumna Kassab. This is a book that I just noticed on the shelf at my bookstore and thought it looked beautiful. And it is beautiful. It's a stunning cover. And when you read the blurb, it sounds like a really good story. It sounds right up my alley. It's a love story. It's about desire and passion and lust and all those beautiful, juicy things. But upon reading it, it is very prosy and poetic. And I simply could not follow the story at all. And I also then found out that my colleague DNF'd this book as well. So sorry, Yumna. I'm sure you're a very good, I'm sure you're a really good author. She's literally won the Miles Franklin Literary Award. Oh no, this was shortlisted for it. So my DNFing, I'm sure, is no hard feelings, no skin off her back. I also DNF'd Ruth and Penn by Emily Pine in 2024, which was really disappointing because I picked this up because years ago, I read her personal essay collection, Notes to Self, which from memory was about pregnancy and motherhood and being a woman and patriarchy and postpartum depression. I shouldn't try to recap a book I don't really remember, but what I do remember is that I loved it. And so when I stumbled upon her fiction novel, I thought, very cool. I know I like her writing. I'm sure I'll be into this. I couldn't do it. It flicks between the two women, Ruth and Penn, throughout the space of a single day, and I just couldn't care. I also did not get very far at all into Die Hot with a Vengeance, Essays on Vanity by Sable Yong. I have read books by people who've worked in the beauty industry, people who have worked for magazines, editors, beauty writers, etc. before, and I find them really interesting. I find the sort of magazine editorial journalism, fashion, beauty world really, really interesting. And when you get those behind the scenes insider stories, it's such fascinating gossip, right? But this just, Sable Yong she was like beauty editor, right? So she's like a writer, journalist and former Allure editor. But these essays were so boring. I'm so sorry. The next two, I still am not calling official DNFs. I still can't, they're still sitting next to my bed as current reads, but I haven't picked them up since November. I just am like so not like, maybe I'll come back to them, you know? I don't want to commit to never picking them up again. And I know that once I return something to my shelf and like secure it as a DNF, nothing's ever going to interest me or draw me to pick it back up. So these are staying by my bed for the foreseeable future, just in case. I got halfway through Doppelganger by Naomi Klein in my attempt at nonfiction November. And I actually genuinely was really enjoying this and was really interested in it. And I felt like what she was writing about and the work that she has put into this was so fucking interesting, and there is so much to learn from it. The reason I put it down and stopped reading it was because I kind of just had to accept that I was not absorbing enough from it. It felt like I was wasting my own time sitting down reading it and not even absorbing it, but also just like wasting the book. So I almost feel like I need to start it from the start again because I was finding it very interesting. I just need to read it at a different time when my brain capacity is a little stronger, when I have less going on that I am worrying about and thinking about. But I will definitely come back to this. The other one, I think I'm almost ready to call it a DNF. It's Gina Chick's autobiography, We Are the Stars. The language I'm using to talk about this book has shifted from memoir to autobiography because there's a distinct difference between the two, and therein lies my issue with this book. It is an autobiography. I'd say that's 2/3, if not 3/4 of the way through, and she is undeniably a fascinating woman. I am still absolutely in awe of her and fascinated by her. I just find it really difficult to read a book, namely an autobiography, that just chronicles somebody's life, that just is like, when I was 7 years old, here's a story from that time. Now here's the story from when I was 13. And now here's a story about when I was 16. And then I turned 20. And let me tell you about it. And it's like, oh, and she has interesting shit to say, and she's lived a really interesting life. And like all the stories she's sharing are super interesting. It's just the format that like I find it draining. I just can't do it as much as I'm obsessed with this Gina Chick. And I think that she is fucking incredible, but I can't do it. I just can't do it. Okay. Now that I've told you about the books that I didn't finish, let's talk about the 65 books that I did. In no particular order. Homebodies by Tempe Denton Hurst. This one I had on my TBR for a really long time, and I actually did say and put on the record that I was going to read it in 2023. I did a like 10 before the end or something, and I like committed to reading a certain number of books in a certain number of weeks before the year was over, and this was one of them, and I didn't do it. I didn't even get my hands on it. But then I finally did at the start of last year, and I didn't need to. I really didn't need to. It dragged. The protagonist pissed me off. And despite it being like funny at times and kind of relatable occasionally, I just really struggle with a protagonist that doesn't want to fucking help themselves and just like self-sabotages and pisses off everyone around them and complains constantly. I went through a little bit of a phase where I felt like I was really not a nice person and that I needed to work on kindness. And so I ordered a couple of books on kindness. And one of them is still sitting next to my bed, half read. And one of them is This Book Will Make You Kinder by Henry James Garrett, which is literally 50% pictures because he's an illustrator, and so it's just full of his silly little pictures. And then some of it is like, hey, actually, it costs nothing to be kind. And it just really wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking for more of like a psychological hacks, how to let go of your mean and nasty person habits and be a better person. So if anybody knows any books like that, I might still be in the market for them. The Degenerates by Raiden Richardson. Slay. First of all, shout out Raiden. What a lovely human being. Chance met him at another random author event that he happened to be at. Me and my colleague were working there. We saw him. We got to talking. He's a really cool guy, and he happened to write a really cool book. And I think he spent like years working on this book, which is kind of crazy because he's like my age, I think. So like, what were you doing writing a whole damn book when you were like a teenager? But anyways, I do have a signed copy right here. which, did I always know this was a signed copy? This was sent to me. I'm having a moment. This was sent to me, right? I wouldn't have bought this. I'm going to be straight up. I would not have bought this. It's not the kind of book that appeals to me. But I just decided to fucking pick it up one day off my shelf. And I really, really, really liked it. I don't know if I knew it was signed. That is so cute. Anyways, set in Melbourne, follows like kind of underdog, underprivileged people, struggles, margins of society, coming together, community, almost a tiny little element of like fantastical, like otherworldliness slightly. But I really recommend this. Gold Rush by Olivia Petter. This was quite a contentious, conflicting, divisive, disagreed upon novel. I heard of this because Ali and Kathleen on the not Shameless, Straight Up podcast, the pop culture podcast hosted by us journalists, Kathleen and Ellie. I love them. I listen to them every week. They're funny. And to be honest, like a lot of the time I disagree with their recommendations and their reviews, but I just am so entertained by them. And I like the fact that when they do their pop culture commentary, it comes from a place of like actual journalism and working in the industry. So it's like quite an interesting perspective that they have, and it's very informed and very analytical. Anywho, they did an episode with Olivia Petter, the author of this book, and like deep dove the book, and it sounded so good. And I love the way that they spoke about it and everything that Olivia said about it and the intentions behind it and the conversations that it raised. And I really actually liked it. I genuinely really liked it. It opens feeling a bit like a romance novel, like the protagonist who works in media meets this huge celebrity, they have a little bit of chemistry, they flirt, etc. And then the tone fully shifts and it becomes like it's set pre-Me Too, but it is like a sexual assault story, and it explores that within its, the celebrity and media world. And I thought that it was really well done, and I recommended it and I raved about it. And then when people started reading it, they were like, this is shit. People didn't like it at all. They were like, this is so like superficial and surface level, and it doesn't like cover these topics like with any nuance or depth at all, and like and la 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 la. And so people didn't like it, but I maintain that I enjoyed the experience of reading this book. I thought it was fun. I thought it was good. Whatever. Y'all are haters. Come Together by Dr. Emily Nagoski, The Science and Art of Creating Lasting Sexual Connections. This is the follow-up to Emily Nagoski's absolutely life-changing, remarkable, and revelatory Come As You Are, which I adored. Really actually is life-changing and brand new and extremely important, fascinating information. This is the follow-up to that targets actual couples. It's about like if you're in a really long-term relationship, how do you maintain a sexual connection? How do you reinvigorate the spark? I say it like that because Emily wouldn't like that turn of phrase. Now, this didn't particularly apply to me specifically situation wise, so it was hard to connect with the material. There's still a lot of really fascinating and useful stuff in here, but not all of it was relevant to me. But I would absolutely recommend it to people who are in long-term relationships and are interested in sexuality and sex and relationships and all of that good juicy stuff. I have tabbed a lot in this one. I said I would do rapid fire style because I didn't like prepare anything to say about these books, and I thought I would not think of that much to say, but already this is a long video, so I'm gonna speed this up. Let's pick up the pace. Until August by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Humiliatingly, I did for some reason think that this was Carmen Maria Machado. If you've been here a while, you might have seen my TikTok where I realized in real time what I had purchased and who it was actually by, and I didn't enjoy 100 Years of Solitude. And so once I realized that that's who this was, I was like, what the fuck? Why did I just spend like such a stupid amount of money on this special edition hardback posthumous release of an author I don't even like? Jesus Christ. A Language of Limbs by Dylan Hardcastle. We all loved this one this year, didn't we? Didn't we all love this? One of the best Aussie novels to come out of 2024, if I do say so myself, and I'm sure plenty would agree. A beautiful story set in the 90s about beautifully devastating, about queer community, essentially. and two people who eventually come together and all the times that their lives almost intersect. Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall, one of my top nonfiction reads of 2024. If you haven't watched my top fives video where I tell you all my top five everythings, this is in there. Go and watch me talk about it in that video. Fragile Animals by Genevieve Jagger, another one that I was gifted really early on in the year. This is a vampire love story-ish affair. This young girl goes to stay in this essentially Airbnb hosted by this old woman, and there's this dude staying there as well, and he's kind of mysterious and creepy, but she's a bit into him, and then he's a vampire, and they have some really interesting conversations. I don't know, I feel like this book will work for some people, but it was a little bit forgettable for me. I could have not. Alternatively, Old Enough by Haley Jacobson was fucking awesome. I had such a fun time reading this book. It was hilarious. It's just light and silly and a fun ride. And as much as I say that, it does touch on quite a serious theme. There's a bit of a serious plot point going on there. But what I remember most about the book is that it is very contemporary, very online, very slangy and down with the kids and fun. And I just had a great time reading this. And Defs, if you're into queer lit, young, contemporary, pop culture, 20-something internet, etc. Get on this. Get on this. Such a good read. All Men Want to Know by Nina Barawi. What do you call it? Fictionalized memoir, auto fiction. It didn't do it for me at all. I don't know what it was about it that didn't work for me. I think it was the structure. It's her story of being a lesbian and growing up between Algiers and Paris, and I don't even remember. I don't know. And it was recommended to me. Who recommended it? I'm joking. Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Look how chunky this fucking hardcover is that I decided I wanted to buy instead of the paperback because I'm stupid. No, it's quite nice having a big chunky hardback on my shelf, but it's just it's a lot to handle. Yeah, we loved her, didn't we? We had a really good time with this one. I don't think it's what any of us were expecting from our gal Sally, but I think we were all pleasantly surprised and quite charmed. I understand people obviously saying they hated the way that Peter's chapters were written. Agree. I just know that that was kind of the point. It was supposed to make you feel anxious. But yeah, stream of consciousness, anxious style writing. Hate that shit too. Sucks. And Peter's fucking insufferable. But we love Ivan. And we love women as vessels for male emotional suffering and therapy. And what's interesting now that time has passed and the moment is over is thinking if this Sally's shifted to this, what's going to be next? I feel like Sally's next work is going to be super left of field and divisive. Her OG fans are going to be what the fuck is this shit? I just have this theory that this is her sort of dipping her toe, kind of warming us up because her next novel's going to be super mature and super grown up and super dare I say, potentially even boring. I never. Stop. Who said that? Kind of, sort of, maybe, by Probably Not by Imbinimi. This was fun. This was another fun, cutesy, wholesome, heartwarming, lovely little Australian fiction, which we do so well, do we not, Australia? And it's sad because I know that every time, or not every time, but a lot of the time when I talk about this kind of Australian story, they're not published elsewhere. So if you're from elsewhere and you're listening to me talking about this, you're probably well, I would read it, but I just can't. And people, now that I am in the e-reader community a little bit, I see people saying sign up to an Australian library and then you can get it on your Kobo or whatever. Hey, I mean, if that's a thing that is doable, do it. That's not illegal, right? That's just supporting libraries that are not in your country, right? Anyway, fun little cutesy story set in Melbourne, and I enjoyed it very much. Briefly, A Delicious Life by Nell Stevens. This is so funny to think about now because Going into it, I thought, fuck yeah, right up my alley, gonna love this. Whilst reading it, I thought, fuck yeah, right up my alley, I love this. As I was finishing it, I was like, oh, maybe that didn't quite hit how I thought it was gonna hit. And ever since, I've like barely given it any thought. It's so interesting because, like, objectively, I feel like it's great. Objectively, I feel like I really liked it and it was like very far up my alley, but I genuinely have found it so forgettable. I know what it's about. Like, I know it's about a ghost girl who is like hundreds of years old now, and so she's like horny and enlightened, and then this family moves into the house that she haunts and she gets a crush on the wife, and like that's it. Like, it's just this ghost lusting after her. But I don't know, I feel like perhaps the writing, the language could have been a bit more evocative and sensual, and maybe it would have stuck more and had more of a tangible effect on me. And maybe that's what it was lacking. Antiquity, on the other hand, by Hannah Johansson, it essentially sounds very Call Me By Your Name-esque, but it really didn't work for me at all. I'm so convinced that I DNF'd this, actually. Like, I'm so sure I didn't finish it. I truly don't know. I just know I didn't like it at all. And so much so that I can't remember if I finished it or not. The work by Bree Lee. Shout out Bree Lee, who shouted out me on her Instagram stories the other day. That's cool. I really enjoyed this. And I know that there are people who didn't like it and found the protagonists like super self-absorbed and insufferable, which was the point. So, sometimes that's fun to read. Sometimes it's funny to read people who suck. Um, and that's what I found with this. Yeah, they do fucking suck. They're shit people who are like fucking each other over constantly. But Braley is like an incredibly smart person. We all know this. And so the way that she writes it is very smart and clever. And you're kind of like, it's like analytical almost psychologically. I had a good time with it, even just like following the romance, the love story, and the horniness. If you have read the work by Brie Lee and you have recommendations for similar books, give them to me right now. Girl Falling by Hayley Scrivener. This is a crime novel. And I was like, what? Why are you sending me a crime novel? I don't read crime. And then I just picked it up because I was like, well, I just had a day where I was like, fuck it. Like, let's read something new and different and try a little bit of genre and dip our toe back in and see if we still are not into it. And I didn't hate this. Like, I didn't have a bad time with it. And I think Hayley Scrivener is like quite a established Australian crime writer. So cool. I don't know what else to say. The New Me by Hallie Butler was quite funny. I liked her writing style. It was very dry humor. It was very satire-y and taking the piss almost. The plot itself was like whatever. It was just kind of like a device for Hallie to make funny observations. So I am interested in reading more Hallie Butler purely because I think that she's funny. Little Rot by Akwaeke Emezi, I really loved. But I really love all of Akwaeke's writing, to be honest. I think they're super talented. I think they can construct a super complex and engaging story. And I was completely invested in this. I had a great time. And I know that a lot of people have not liked it. So whatever, haters. Deborah Levy's The Cost of Living, the second in her living autobiography trilogy. Not gonna lie, right now, can't remember a damn thing about it. Keen to read the last one, though. What's that one? Real Estate? Maybe? The red one? I'll read it. I love Deborah. I'm sure it was a great book. My Brother's Ashes Are in a Sandwich Bag by Michelle Brazier. Wow. I don't know what to. Okay. So Michelle is a comedian and she's a very, very funny comedian. She has also had like a horrendous life experience in the fact that like essentially her whole family is just dying. And she's gonna die and everyone's just dying and it's like awful. And those things juxtaposed are very interesting. I will say with this, it does feel like either she decided to write a book or she was commissioned to write a book, but she didn't really. She struggled because it's kind of just a collection of very, very short entries. I'm not going to call them essays, they're chapters, but they're literally, it's like 3 pages. It's like, I'm just going to write a quick little thing on this thing. Despite that, Very funny, very moving. I couldn't read this at work because it made me cry. Like I was sitting on my lunch break, like casually reading, and I was crying. So it's still very moving and very funny and very like affecting and just like a horrendous fucking story, but also like very inspiring because like despite everything, like she's maintained hope. So awesome. But just yeah, in terms of like the ability to have written a book or a memoir or whatever, like it is quite evident that she struggled. Which whatever, it's fine. Like she got it done. Like she did the damn thing. It's more than I've ever done or probably will ever do. So we're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm hot. It's heating up. The sun is coming in. The room's getting hot, but we are getting there. We are almost at the end. And the next book is Poor Things by Alistair Gray, which I think I won like a competition. Actually, I won a little competition with Bloomsbury. Like they did a little Instagram share this to your story competition, win tickets to the movie and a copy of the book, and I won. And the movie tickets came straight away, and the book came like 2 months later. So I went to see the movie first, and then I read the book, and I enjoyed this. It is even weirder than the movie because even like structurally, like, and I mean, if you're watching right now, if you're not watching, turn on your screen because I'm showing you some crazy shit. Yeah. Multiple pages look like that. Crazy town, but quite funny. Quite a funny ride. And then what was interesting reading this after watching the film was that the story in the film ends, let's say, here. That's the end of the movie. And then in the book, there's still more story and you find out a bit more stuff, which was really juicy. It was like getting like extra secret knowledge about the story that people who've only seen the film don't know about. So I have insider knowledge. But yeah, worth the read, I think. I reread Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. I can't remember why I reread it. It was for a reason, not just like I feel like rereading it. I'm pretty sure it was for a reason. Wait, did the show come out last year? I think the series, The Three Women with Shailene Goddamn Woodley, came out last year, and that's what prompted me to reread it. Wow, it feels like that series came out way longer ago. Here's the thing. I'm so mad about this because for multiple reasons. One, barely any people know that the show happened, right? I know that a lot of people love this book. So great. We're on the same page there. This is one of the best nonfiction books I think I've ever read. This series did not get promoted nearly enough, first of all. Absolutely should have gotten so much more press. So many people should know about it. I feel like I was like the sole person putting in the work advertising this show unpaid. And every time I posted a TikTok talking about it, I would get so many comments like, wait, what? Three Women got turned into a series? Since when? Where can I watch it? And I would like go and find out where people could watch it in their particular country and like tell them to go watch it. And they'd be like, holy shit, it's so good. And I'd be like, yeah, why is no one fucking talking about this show? So anyway, I'm mad for that reason because still I reckon not enough people know that this show happened. And it's such a well done show. Oh my God. The performances, so fucking good. I watched the show twice, like probably fucking back to back, I think. Anyways, also because I'm such a big fan of the book, and then the show was so fucking good as well. I made a whole like deep dive YouTube video about it, and it flopped so hard. And I tell you, honestly, cross my heart, this video, I have never put so much time and effort and work into a video. I did so much research. I also was like really in my like visual graphics, adding photos and images and clips. Like it took me so much time to edit, so much time to research, like I put so much work into this fucking video and I was like, wow, like I'm like, this is literally like a video essay. I'm gonna pop off because all the girls do their video essays and they do so well because they put so much work into them, and it flopped. It flopped so hard and I'm so sad about it. But whatever. If you guys don't want to know about this show, then that's your loss. And whatever. I'll move on. I'll move on. It's a new year. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Woo Woo by Ella Baxter let me down. I really liked Ella Baxter's new animal. I thought that it was soft and introspective and beautiful and lovely done and very considered, and Woo Woo just pushed the limits way too far, and I thought it was super odd. And I love a weird book. Hello. I love a weird book. We know that. But yeah, something about this just wasn't it. It didn't do it. Didn't work. Oh boy. Oh boy. Mad Woman by Chelsea Beaker. Here's the thing. This is one of the best books that I read last year. And now I'm starting to doubt myself because the reviews are trickling in and people aren't liking it. people that I've recommended this to aren't liking it, and now I'm like, am I wrong? Am I stupid? Do I have really terrible taste in books? Is it just a symptom of the circumstance in which I read this, that I think it was good and I think I really liked it, but actually I just read it quite quickly because I didn't have anything better to do? I'm seriously doubting myself purely because like 2 people have said they didn't like it. But I think I still maintain that this was a really well done book. Like I really, really loved it and was very impressed by it. I read Swimming in the Dark by Thomas Jadrowski. I don't know. And yeah, it's just as beautiful as people say. It was a really lovely story to read. I'm glad I picked it up. I want to read more stories like this. I love these like quiet, moving, heartwarming, sad, full of love, queer stories. This is the good shit. Hard Copy by Fine Waldman was kind of like exactly what you expect it to be when you go into a book about a woman who becomes emotionally attached to the printer at her work. The story does exactly what it can do. It was silly and weird and fine. If you like a really strange story, definitely pick it up. All I ever wanted was to be hot by Lucinda Froomes Price. This was great. This was very well done. Very good read. This is a perspective that hasn't been shared very much, or yeah, I don't know, an experience that hasn't really been written about. I think the Australian media landscape is such a specific thing to grow up with, that this obviously there are stories about eating disorders and there are stories about beauty standards and all of those kinds of coming of age whatever things, right? Like yeah, it's been done. But like specifically in the Australian media landscape in the 2000s, like what a terrifying toxic place to be, and written by a comedian no less. So not only is it like fuck, but it's like funny as fuck as well. So enjoyed. Well done for me. Allow me to introduce myself. Ugh, so much promise, such a fun little premise, but poorly executed. Sorry to say it. I'm not even going to tell you what the premise is because it doesn't do it well. It's not well done. Dragged so much. Ugh. So we're moving on. Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan. Again, a letdown, such a shame. People really like this book. People really liked this. You know why I think I didn't like it is because I loved Megan Nolan's Acts of Desperation. And I thought, wow, I haven't read a lot of writing like this, but this is what I look for when I open a book, kind of thing. And so I went into this like, cool, more Megan Nolan, and it just wasn't that at all. It was completely different to Acts of Desperation. So I was like, what the fuck's this? I wasn't that angry. It was fine. I read the whole thing, but it wasn't what I was looking for from the author of Acts of Desperation, you know? I reread Big Swiss very early on in the year because my bookstore that I work at was doing it as their book club pick. And so I was like, I want to come to the book club because I love that book and I want to talk about it. And then I didn't end up being able to go to the book club for some reason. I can't remember why. I was sick or something happened. And so I reread it kind of for no reason, but it's always good to check in with your faves. All right, gang, home stretch. Thank you for sticking with me. On Women by Susan Sontag, a collection of feminist essays from her life as a writer. This shit's dated as hell, but it's still really interesting to watch the evolution of feminism and to see how far we've come from like these essays that were considered like radical feminism and to look at it and be like, ooh, sheesh, yikes. Or be like, yeah, well, that's literally still relevant today and we have not changed a thing. So an interesting read if you approach it critically. Tidelines by Sarah Sasson. No one has spoken about this, I feel, because it's just a little Australian book that nobody knows about. That's quite a quiet, like, underwhelming story. I enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was fine. I thought it was quite nice. It's like beachy, slightly mystery, family, coming of age. I don't know how to describe it. I don't really remember that much of it. But I know that it was a nice story and it was nicely written. And I always enjoy an Australian novel set by the beach or by the water because just like the setting and that environment is written about consistently so beautifully. And I like the idea of people who don't live here reading that and experiencing that. White on White by Icicle Savas, one of my top 5 most forgettable books. I can't tell you what this was about. Can't tell you. No idea. Absolutely not a clue. Blue Sisters by Coco Malors. Can we believe this came out last year? Feels like it's been forever since this came out and we'd all stopped talking about it because here's the thing though, y'all liked it. Y'all really enjoyed Blue Sisters. I didn't. I didn't care for it at all. Sorry. And Cleo and Frankenstein was one of my favorite books of the year that it came out. Like, I fucking loved Cleo and Frank, so I was very keen for more Coco Mellows. But Blue Sisters just didn't work for me at all. I'm so sorry to say it. I'll read whatever Cleo writes next. Like, I think she's a very talented writer. The story just wasn't for me. Bite Back by Hannah Ferguson. And while we're here, Taboo by Hannah Ferguson. Freaky fucking girl who writes so much and does so much work and clearly has more hours in her day than the rest of us because how's she getting all this shit done? But anyways, both of these were great. Enjoyed them both. Love you, Hannah. Peace and love and slay. I talk about these in more depth in the other video that I will link here. The Trio by Joanna Hedman. Forgettable also. I think good though. Can a book be good but also forgettable? Like, I would probably recommend that people read this. I just don't have that much to say about it. It's like about a trio of people who are kind of friends, kind of in a bit of a relationship-y situation, love triangle kind of thing. It's Sally Rooney-esque. Hate to say it. Like, it's worth a read. I just don't have that much to say about it anymore. So, yeah. I'm not selling it. I recommend it. I promise I recommend it. Diket, however, by Jenny Fran Davis. I do not recommend it. This was so annoying. This pissed me off so much. And maybe I'm just like not in this very niche pocket of the queer community. And maybe if I was in that very niche pocket of the queer community, it would have hit for me. But like, really, that's your target audience? By Julia Shaw was really interesting. The hidden culture, history, and science of bisexuality. Like, literally that. This is not a memoir. This is like, hey, here's where the term bi came from. Here's what bisexuality has looked like throughout the ages. Here's the representation that we've seen in history. Here's like the discrimination and biphobia that exists in the media. So much interesting stuff on like the sexuality that people think is not fucking even real half the time. So good read. Carla by Colin Walsh. Why didn't I read this last year? Why is this here? I mean, like 2023. I think I read this in 2023. Why is this here? I don't think this should be here. I DNF'd it anyway, with 4 pages to go. A Certain Hunger, though, by Chelsea G. Summers, one of my top books of 2024. Holy fuck. I will be rereading this one day. I recommend this to everyone ever. So good. Go watch my top 10 books video. It is in there. I think it's in part 1. The First Bad Man by Miranda July. Obviously, I read all 4. Oh, fuck. I'm like forgetting to do the books that I don't physically have with me. You guys are just going to miss those. I can't. This video is a shambles. I read all 4s by Miranda July. Loved it, obviously, like everybody else did. And then I picked up The First Bad Man by Miranda July, and it was fine. But if you are interested in reading a Miranda July and you'd like to check out one of her books, check out all 4s. Ritual by Chloe Elizabeth Wilson. This isn't out yet. This is out in a bit. This is out in May this year, but it's very good. Keep your eye out for it. I posted a TikTok about it the other day, so you can go and look at my TikTok and see me talk about it in more depth. But it's a Melbourne book, Melbourne story, and it's very fun. She's Always Hungry, the new one from Eliza Clark, whom we love, but we don't love short story collections that much. I'm not a short story girl. You know that by now, I'm sure. As I did struggle, and I struggle to say that I enjoyed this. I'm literally getting a sore throat. I don't remember the last time I sat down and monologued for this long. My throat is starting to hurt. This is insane. Land of Milk and Honey by C. Pam Zhang. Very good. Thoroughly enjoyed. I think I fucked up. I think I read this year, no? No, I read this last year. Oh my God. What is time but a social construct? Land of Milk and Honey is very good. It's a post-apocalyptic story about a chef. We love food writing. What a Way to Go by Bella Mackie is another like kind of crime mystery actually that I was sent, and let's break that fourth wall. Paid to promote, which you probably would have seen right through because I don't fucking read crime mysteries. But yes, it honestly was like quite a fun read. But yeah, as you know, I don't read that kind of book. That's not me. Perfume and Pain by Anna Dawn. Very good, very fun, very funny, satirical, LA lesbians. Again, one of my top 10 books of 2024. If you want to know more about it, watch that video. The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. You'll be celebrating Maggie Nelson. I thought I was getting into something very different. I don't know. I think I just didn't realize that she would be so like abstract with it, so quirky with it. I don't know. I will try one more of her works. But this was something. What's for Dinner by Jill Griffiths. I will always tell you guys to read this, and I know that none of you are ever going to read it. But it was so interesting. It was so fucking interesting reading about Australian food production. I hate saying that sentence out loud, but I swear it's so interesting. Knowing where our food comes from, how it does what it does for our bodies. Couplets by Maggie Milner. I don't know what that was. Oh, The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell. Will it ever end? This was kind of low-key insufferable. What the hell? Evenings and Weekends by Oisin McKenna. Y'all know I really liked this book. Y'all know I loved this book, actually. Loved the characters, cried over them. I think it's such a sweetie book. Yeah, I mean, one of the best ones to come out of 2024. We all know it. The Singularity by Balsam Karam. This, I want to say it was forgettable, but I remember distinctly everything that happened in this book because it was so tedious. I'm so sorry. This woman lost her child. I think it's like this mother's child died ages ago, but since her child died, she's like lost her mind and she lives in poverty and she just like wanders around this town on the streets asking people if they've seen her son, kind of thing. That's the vibe. I feel like I'm bastardizing like a really deep and beautiful story, but I just like didn't connect with it at all. Found Wanting by Natasha Scholl. I'm going to say very little on this. It's a memoir about a woman whose partner died in a really horrific circumstance. Absolutely nightmare stuff. I just think it was lacking emotional depth and I didn't connect with it. Cursed Bread by Sophie McIntosh. I did not like as much as The Water Cure. This one was a bit too weird and eerie for me. I didn't quite follow what was going on. But people love Cursed Bread, so I hope they are reading The Water Cure as well. Bernard and the Cloth Monkey by Judith Bryan. Can't remember it. Housemates by Emma Copley Eisenberg. Caused some discussion, caused a interview in Esquire magazine. So slay. But I think I did DNF this. I'm sorry. I know people loved it. I was not one of them. You probably saw the TikTok about it because it kind of caused some conversation. Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. I wanted to read this for so long and then it just didn't hit. It just did not hit for me. I'm so sorry. I love a lesbian-y, queer-y little story, especially a coming of age, but didn't do anything for me. Greta and Veldin, you'll know I loved this book so much. One of my top reads of last year. You know where to find more info on that. Max by Abby Ducker-Jones. Another forgettable one. So many forgettable reads that you just don't even think about until you go through everything that you read. I think that's me done. There are some more books that I read that I don't physically have on me. Shall I quickly bring up my Goodreads? I guess what's 5 more minutes. I'm glad I did this because the Safe Keep was really fucking good. I absolutely adored the Safe Keep and I think that you should all read it. So I don't have that because I borrowed it off of someone, but I want to get my own copy because I really, really, really liked it. Like I said, all fours, very good, worth all of the hype that it's getting. It has absolutely earned it. Prima Facie. I don't know where the fuck my copy of Prima Facie is, but I liked it, but you could tell, and obviously it would be a different experience reading it without having seen the play, but I had seen the play and I could tell what parts were the original screenplay script and what parts were like added in to bulk out the book because it was a play before it was a book. And so that was a little bit distracting, but it's still a really good read. And I learned this fun fact yesterday that in the UK, apparently, I've not fact checked this, but someone told me, in the UK, everyone who passes the bar and wants to become a lawyer has to read Prima Facie as like part of their studies or qualifications or whatever. Or to pass the bar, you have to read Prima Facie. I don't know, something like that. So it's like in the curriculum, which is fucking awesome. Just Friends by Gen Yankovic, one of my top nonfiction reads of last year. Again, it's in that video that I am linking. Really good. One of my closest friends has it at the moment because I've been giving it to all of my friends because that's what it is about. And that's the end. If you stuck through this video, I freaking love you. I know that this has been like such a mess, such a casual video, such a different vibe. It's probably not working as a podcast at all, but if you have listened to it as a podcast, you're an absolute trooper. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you do enjoy the pod, if you do enjoy my channel, make sure you're subscribed. Click a little 5-star, click a thumbs up, any of the good things genuinely makes a difference, genuinely helps. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, at Slaggy Book Club. This is all independently produced just by me, and I really appreciate you being here. I'll see you next week. Love ya.